Olá, bom dia. Estamos começando um Reimagining Wealth Transfer, talvez falando em português, que já está se saindo muito bem, falando português fluentemente. Então, bom dia, Lauren, bom dia, Vinícius. Tudo
Bom
bem?
dia.
Bom dia. Eu acho que a gente deveria fazer mais esse exercício de falar em línguas diferentes, né? Por que eu falo isso? Porque depois a gente pode até podemos colocar as legendas, os subtitles, né? Para as pessoas que não forem compreender. Que eu acho que é um exercício interessante, né? Evidentemente que inglês facilita, né? Facilita porque a boa parte das pessoas entendem um pouquinho, não entendem totalmente, mas entendem inglês. Né? Mas vai ser um prazer a gente fazer uma parte desse encontro aqui em português. Né? Então vamos lá, vou perguntar para Lauren como é que foi, né? Como é que foi fazer o trabalho, se você e Tibi tiveram ontem juntos para fazer a newsletter, para enviar. Eu acho que vocês estiveram juntos. Eu vi a newsletter, ficou muito boa. Senti falta do nosso encontro, do nosso touchdown anterior ao touchdown da semana passada. Quer dizer, teve o touchdown da semana passada e teve o anterior, onde eu e Atos estávamos num encontro nessa casa bucólica no Rio de Janeiro, né? Nessa casa bacana no Rio de Janeiro da Utopia. Né? E eu assisti o encontro, foi muito bom. O Vincent
Na
chegou.
beleza brasileira.
É, exatamente. Eu senti o encontro e o Vincent Arena chegou, né? Ele fez uma apresentação do tipo de mapeamento que ele está fazendo, que é sensacional, é muito interessante, né? E senti falta da gente também fazer uma referência a esse touchdown. Quer dizer, então a minha sugestão para a próxima semana é a gente fazer um 2 em 1, né? Fazer, fazer um recap, né? De como foi esse touchdown que você, Lauren, teve junto com o Alexar e o Vincent e a gente falar dessa semana aqui, tá bom? Então eu estou falando devagarzinho para que a Lauren possa compreender. Então, por favor, fica à vontade para você falar um pouco de como foi o contato seu ontem com o Tibi e o que vocês vislumbraram como importante, como relevante para o encontro de hoje, para o touchdown de hoje. Did you got it, Lauren? I, yeah, a little bit. Okay.
Só um pouquinho.
I will ask for
Para eu.
I will ask for Atos to say with his very clean Brazilian Portuguese what I just said with my harsh Brazilian Portuguese. So Atos, please.
Vinícius perguntou o que ficou definido na sua reunião com o TIB sobre o propósito da nossa reunião de hoje. O que vocês definiram como pauta, como tópicos para falarmos na reunião de hoje, no Reimagining Well.
O que é que aconteceu entre Tibi e...
Foi uma pergunta. Vocês se conversaram e decidiram os temas que falam.
Ok, Tibi quer falar do o que aconteceu na Europa. Eu não sou, eu não sou muito. Abbiamo falado de ontem a fazer o dia e o taço de, de inovação.
Então, de
Oh,
revisão. Eu só não entendi a última palavra.
o taço de fusão, de inovação inovação.
Invasão.
I'm gonna switch to English. Alexa,
Yeah.
we're trying to have a conversation in Portuguese, and I'm doing some super difficult conversations in Portuguese.
Wow, she changed to English. She talks fast.
Hey, Alexar, be very welcome, man.
And I was just talking about this with Alexa. We were talking this morning about so we're talking about measuring some things that we're talking about in a network and how to do it and how to certain of our conversations and turn it into mathematics to express what we're saying in a mathematical language. And one of these was the rate innovation diffusion. So in a network, there are certain ways people have already figured out, because we looked for yesterday, people have already figured out how to measure the rate of innovation diffusion, even of like social media in terms and like words. You can measure words and how they're spreading along. And so we thought that if we start measuring these rates, a way to measure collective intelligence, and that we could start running experiments as to increase this rate of innovation diffusion of these ideas. Will that lead to something else that measured? And how could we also measure what the thing that we measure to represent collective intelligence? You know, so that's what TV and I talked about yesterday.
Hey everyone, I was mute earlier. I tried to say a few things in Portuguese. I'm glad you're mute.
Falamos.
Please, but say
No,
something.
Portuguese.
Say something in Portuguese,
Es
man.
español, pero yo pretendo es en portugués. I wanted to say nada es muy difícil. I don't know. I was enjoying listening to you guys, like speaking in Portuguese. So
Yeah, we
if you want to like go ahead,
we can switch again. We can go to Brazilian Portuguese, no problem. Yeah.
I would love that. Yeah, if you like, yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Actually much happy there.
Então,
You want to do that?
but you must be aware that my Brazilian Portuguese is more difficult to understand than the Brazilian Portuguese from Atos. So be aware of that. Atos has.
Well, I have zero. I have.
Atos has a more polished.
A little bit okay, Brazilian. Yeah.
Yeah, Atos has a more polished Brazilian Portuguese. Mine is not so polished, right? So let's go switching to
Es
Brazilian
como una
Portuguese.
persona de Argentina o una persona de Cuba.
Yes. Então,
Argentina.
Vinicius es el cubano.
então existe um fenômeno que é interessante. Eu vou falar bem devagar. Existe um fenômeno que é bem interessante, sabe, Alexar e Lauren? O fenômeno é: os espanhóis não conseguem entender o português brasileiro. Os espanhóis não conseguem entender o português brasileiro. Olha que loucura! It's crazy, isn't it? But não conseguem. Então, a maioria dos meus amigos espanhóis, ou eu falo em inglês com eles, ou eles falam em espanhol comigo e eu falo em espanhol com eles, porque eles não conseguem entender o português brasileiro. Deu para entender isso, Lauren? Deu para entender, Alexar? Did you understand anything?
Yeah. Muy un poco. Very little.
Es siempre así, como os brasileiros podem compreender a gente que fala espanhol. A gente que fala espanhol nunca fala português.
Muita dificuldade. Eu tenho pelo menos uns 8 ou 9 amigos espanhóis, seja lá da Espanha mesmo, seja do México, seja do Chile, seja do Uruguai, e eles não conseguem entender, tem muita dificuldade de entender o português brasileiro. Muita dificuldade. Olha que loucura, né? Eu acho isso uma loucura mesmo. Porque we have to switch to Anglo-Saxon language to speak with Latin fever, right? So it's really weird. It's really weird. I don't know why, but that happens, right? So, então, Atos, por favor, fale um pouquinho do seu polido português, devagarzinho, para o Alexar e a Lauren conseguirem entender. Vai.
Então, pessoal, não sei o que dizer. Podemos seguir em português com o tema da conversa de hoje? Pode ser? Maybe switch to English?
He made a question. Can we proceed with what we're going to talk today in the Portuguese Brazilian language, or let's just go in English as usual? He made a question for you, for both you guys.
Eu gostaria de, assim ser possível.
Se for possível.
Utopia. O software de Utopia. Porque o entendido que tem na versão ok. Eu gostaria de ver.
Ok.
Eu acho que ela quer ver. De repente, vale a pena, Atos, a gente fazer uma apresentação da Figma, né? Do aplicativo do Figma. Eu acho que ela perguntou mais sobre isso, porque eu compartilhei com ela ontem para ela poder baixar para fazer o beta teste do aplicativo, entendeu? Então, de repente, se você tiver na mão aí aquela apresentação do Figma que o Marcelo sempre compartilha com a gente, seria bom. Well, my friends, I think that we're going to switch to English because we're going to make it in slow motion. This is the slow camera. This is going to be a little bit weird. So, yes.
Is it a question before you? Is this strange if I'm just observing and you guys talk to each other? This?
No, man. No,
Is it
no,
uncomfortable?
no. Actually, there's a friend of
because yeah.
There's a Netherlands friend of mine. He loves to come to these Brazilian Portuguese gatherings where we're doing whatever, and just tune in to listen. It's so musical for him. It's very musical. The Brazilian Portuguese language is very musical. It's interesting, isn't it? His name is Tis. I think that Lauren knows him. Do you know Tis, Lauren? From Netherlands? I don't know.
Tishman? Like,
Yes, Tis.
What's his name?
Tis.
No.
Tis. His name is Tis. Tis.
He's what?
Yes, let me see. I forgot all his name. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Tis van der Veer. Tis van der Veer. Tis van der Veer. You don't know the guy. Okay. So let's go. Atos, do you have the Figma presentation there where we can show the app for them?
I'm just if the right, the more.
Well, you see, let's do this. If I'm going to try to find here. Let's see if you find or me find. But Uh, there's something interesting, there's something relevant in my understanding that is important for us to talk today. Is first, Alexar, are you going to be with us in the Gitcoin, the 12 match funding Gitcoin rounds with your project, with your open source project?
Do you think my project would be relevant? I don't know.
Totally.
I'm open.
Totally, because
I don't know if it's relevant.
yeah, totally. In the sense that imagine if we have imagine this. Imagine using blockchain technology that is typical for Web 3.0, right? Where you can register all sorts of reusable components of equipment, and it's registered, and folks can know where you can find those components in a very decentralized, distributed way. So it would be nice to have this type of data, right? And this is one aspect of it. But another aspect of it is that in the top of that, in the top of the physical, let's say, computer, a computer thing, PC thing, or notebook thing. I don't know if your project is only related to PC or notebooks, or even it has smartphones too.
Smartphones.
Yeah, but
In the next phase you will be, yeah.
imagine that we can put on top of it running virtual computers, right? Virtual open source computers. We can do that easily. We can do that in a very interesting way and manner in the Web 3.0, right? Running through, for instance, if we work with the Cosmos ecosystems that has a lot of interoperability between all sorts of blockchains, we can we can create a virtual machine that let me see, that has capabilities and functions as a real computer, a real hardware computer, where folks all over the planet can access these futures, can access to do works, right? So, but in a virtual sense, only having to have a type of Arduino computer. We don't have to, because all the process capacity is distributed, is decentralized.
Like a thin client.
Yeah, yeah. So this is
Fine.
something I have been thinking about this for years now, and but when I thought about this in 2014, the Web3 wasn't there for it, right? So now the Web3 is there for it, and this is very inclusive. This is very very DAOish, let me say, and this is very Web3. So it makes a lot of sense to you to be with us as a collection in the Gitcoin space, right? I love to ask the same question to Vincent Lauri, to see. He said that he will be with us, but I didn't see him making any movements to put the project with a grant in the Gitcoin space, and the time is running, right? So we have a little time to
So there is a time.
yeah,
Deadline. There's
because
a timeline.
yeah, there's a timeline. It's going to start now, December 1st, and it's going to 16th of December. 1st of December to 16th of December is going to be the last Gitcoin match funding round, the 12. So
So it from the 1st and ends in 16th.
yeah, that's it. And it's going to be nice. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so this is very important, folks, because if we have a very strong uh, uh, collection in the Gitcoin space with the new rules for this last round, we upper the chances to have all more amounts of cryptos at our disposal at the end, right? For each project, right? So it's going to be interesting if you come along, Alexar. And in my understanding, all of this is talking, all of this makes conversations, right? Like, you see, what Lauren wants to do with her husband in Niger, with what we're starting to do here in Brazil, me and Atos, and Guilherme and others, via Utopia and via Taudao, what Sensorica has been doing in Canada, in Europe. I think that what Trove means as a middleware, let's say, to talk with all these things that we're talking. I know that now you have a better notion about Trove because I saw the touchdown that you and Lauren did with Vincent, and it was really great. And so I think that we have, man, the bread and butter, right, on hands to really have make a very good footprint in the Gitcoin space. Start to make a very interesting, relevant footprint in the Gitcoin space. And of course, it's something very new, right? They are open to, they're really open, they're becoming more and more decentralized. They're really open to and this is going to be the first experience, but we can in the next round in 2022, we can make a signed. We as a collection, we can propose a side match funding, right? We can propose a side match funding. Wouldn't that be great? So we can make our own hackathons. We can propose our own hackathons. So it's going to be really nice. So, well, that's my pitch, man, for you to understand that it's going to be nice to have you there. So,
no, you definitely my interest. I'm looking at the Gitcoin website. What we can, if there is a link, you can put it now. I'll have a look while you guys, and we can also have a one-on-one session later. So we talk about those things specifically.
yeah,
Workshop it.
yeah. You see, for you to be in Gitcoin, you have to be in GitHub. If you're already in GitHub, you're already in Gitcoin because it's automatic. Right? If you have a profile in GitHub, you have a profile in Gitcoin. So that's easy as that, right?
No, I mean, reading more about like specifically about the dates that you mentioned. That's something that starts on the 1st until 16th. I'm trying to find that on.
Yeah, okay, I can put it for you.
Gitmo,
Yes, wait a sec.
This is what I'm looking at, so I'm sharing the screen.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it, man.
Something, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that it?
You
I don't
see,
know, like, where should I go?
yeah, you see grants, you see collections, we're going to be in collections, right? We're going to be, your grant is going to, each grant will have its own page, right? Sensorico has its own page with its specific grant. Utopia to Taudao to Trove to, but we are going to be together as a collection, as you've seen there, right?
Okay, I see.
Yeah, we're going to be together as a collection. Well, man, just start by signing in, right? If you have already have a GitHub profile, it's easy, and you have to have some wallet. The MetaMask wallet it works, it's fine, right? But it has a lot. You can click and see all sorts of wallets they have there. I think about 4, 5, or 6 wallets that they work with. But well, feel welcome, Alexar. Please, feel welcome.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we can have like a one-on-one conversation to work out what's the best.
Yeah, why not?
Match.
We could do this today if Lauri and Atos are okay with this, because you see, having the type of projects that you are entangled with, it's really crucial. It's really relevant. You see, because it has that earth, down to earth. You see, down to earth touch for it, right? It's not something so abstract or so conceptual. It's something very down to earth. We're talking about computer capacity, inclusivity for computer capacity. We're talking about something that is very relevant for everyone, right? So it's going to be nice to have this with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Atus, did you find anything, man? If you didn't find,
Not in Figma. I didn't find in Figma, but I'll try to share the thing of my cell phone.
okay, go on.
Then I can access the
Yeah, it's better.
my cell
It's
phone.
it's even better. It's even better because he already downloaded the app, Utopia app for his cell phone, so it's even better. So let's go. Let's go first with.
I don't share screen option. Should I have the?
Oh, I'll put you. It's the second.
Commissioner.
Is the second Atus, right? It's strange because this profile.
Yes.
This profile. It's. Let me put you. It's strange because everyone can share screen in this people screen profile.
Oh, now
Oh,
no.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Here we go.
Hey. So I have it. This is Utopia.
Yeah, important to say that this is the Brazilian Portuguese version, but there's an English version. Okay, so when you register loading, there will be an English version. Okay, for it. So, and I'll send for you, Alexar, too, the invitation for Utopia's app beta test. Okay.
So if I see some posts, this is someone from Ubatuba, São Paulo, and if I see this post and I think, wow, this post, I can reward him with us, the Utopia currency. So I can send him some as as recognizing his doing a job. I can also, if I click on the plus icon down there, I can actually post something. Let me see it here. If I post something, image, video, crop image, I'm gonna put some text here. No, let me put something real, not just a on the monitor.
Yeah, you can take a photo of us on your screen.
I think something got. Wait a minute. Okay, now I got it. Okay, let me try another thing. The profile. I have my profile and I have two posts. I did this post and I did this other post from video. Vinicius and I did a time lapse, and I post this time lapse of us together on the here on my profile. I can edit my profile and I see my wallet, carteira. Here I can see all that I give as reward and all that I received as reward. So received, all the us that I received. Also receive us from gaining, from learning. We have some learning tracks here. This down there on the menu, we have the home and this learning tracks. can access these learning tracks, and we recorded in OS by concluding these learning tracks. So I already did some. If I click on the first one, so if I see this video, which have 3 minutes seconds, I will gain 3 OS, 3.05. And once I finish the video, this OS is transferred to my wallet. And that's it. We can earn OS by seeing narrative content and by publishing and creating regenerative content. And we also have a market to spend this OS something relevant, you know. At the moment, we have some yoga class online every 3 crops and some seeds, some paper seeds. Well, we will on having more partners and have more items in this marketplace, because see, it will be great if the people wouldn't have to trade, to exchange to real or USDs. It would be great if they could access goods and services with us, but you know, step by step. I think the basic working is this. I'm gonna try to make a post here. Wait a Hello, everyone. I'm just here to say to remember everyone, breathe. So I can post. For the text, my location. Oh yes, I have to. My location. Please. Yes. My location. I put some hashtags. Let me see. Mindfulness. Confirm. Publish. So once this my published, Vinicius, for instance, can see from wherever he is, and reward my post with us and dynamics. Oh, now the app give me a congratulations because I achieved my daily goal. We have a daily goal and a daily individual and a daily community goal.
Yeah, let me add some context for all this walkthrough that Atos does made with us. The first thing is that this app has 3 dimensions. You have a social feed, you have an ethical regenerative marketplace, and you have a regenerative game, right? So they're all the 3 dimensions of this app are intertwined. And the thing is that the Oz, that is the token, it's of course it's a currency, but it's an abundance logic currency. It's not a scarcity logic currency. This is the first thing to note. The thing is that this button that Atos is clicking there, we call it gratitude button, right? So you not only like something, you really feel gratitude for that type of content, that type of experience that you're viewing in that content. So you can actually let's say, recognize the content with Oz, right? So you can send, you can really share with the person the quantity of Oz that you feel to share with her, right? So the Oz circulation is moved by, once more, by empathic input. So this is based is based on empathy too. So this is based on your viewing that experience, that content is very relevant for, I don't know, making any type of transition in your life, and in terms of the regenerative culture. And so you really recognize and share with the person any quantity of Oz that you like, right? So this is the first thing. So that's the way that Oz circulates. In that sense, we're going to stimulate people not to accumulate Oz. Just have this trend to share and share. You see, all the wealth that you can obtain with your experiences, your content, your, let's say, your navigation through the app, right? Posting interesting things, viewing the learning tracks, sending gratitude for anyone. Well, that will generate quantities of Oz that will make you you will be able to trade in the ethical regen marketplace of Utopia. You'll be able to access, right? Access yoga classes, access seeds to plant. Well, with time, you're going to be able to access anything that you can imagine, right? So it's really a currency. It's not something. And the interesting thing is that in this first moment, we're not going to. It's going to be fungible, but now it's quite a currency by its own, right? But it's going to be fungible with fiat and other cryptos, but not for now. Because we want to give the opportunity for people to sense that they can create a type of wealth that's very different from the type of wealth that you create when you earn dollars, when you earn euros, right? When you have to work and earn, right? With the sweat of your face, right? So we want to give the experience that you can receive. You see, it's not earning, it's receiving. You can receive. You can receive Oz in a sense that because what you're doing for yourself, for your health, right? It's not only relevant for your health, but it's relevant for your friends, your family, your neighborhood, right? It's relevant for the planet as a whole. So it's relevant for any type of scaling, right? It's relevant for anyone. So this is the thing. We want to see if people can really grasp this proposal, right? This idea, this perspective of Oz not being a type of marketing-oriented thing, right? Like where you earn points and you can trade these points to access products. No. We want really for you to have the experience, to feel that you really are thriving through a new kind of a new form of way to generate wealth for your life and for others. That's the thing about this app, right? And this is only the beginning, because you see, Alexar and Lauding, we're not going to stay. Okay, we're going to stay, but we're not going to scale up in the Amazon's servers, or in the Android servers, or in the Apple servers. You see, we want really to make the transition for decentralized apps, right? So we want to make the transition in the infrastructure, the decentralized infrastructure that Threefold has been doing all over the planet. So this is the goal. We're not going to stay to scale up in app stores, right? In these app stores, these conventional and corporate app stores. We're going to transcend, let's say, we're going to go and have a very decentralized app. So that's my observations for this walkthrough that Atos gave us. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, first it's for me to understand. It still feels like an attention currency where you gain points and use those to things. So that's what the interface is telling me. So if you want me to think different, you have to change the interface in some way that makes me understand that. And it's really nice to have an interface. It's much better than to try to understand. To see the interface, it really helps go way to explaining what you're doing. And I think it's helpful to say that you don't want to scale like Amazon. If the goal is to like expose people to more project space, then it's super helpful to know that. And yeah, I would like to ask how decide what gets in the learning, and because they all seem like they could be learning something. So what makes in that section that you get kind of credits to watch?
You see, when we first thought about how the Oz currency would circulate, Lauren, we thought in a very substantial way. Our first thought was to be very substantial. We thought that it would be nice if you only receive Oz if you're really making a transformation for your life, right? Really making a transformation. So, and the way that you prove, let's say, that you're making a transformation is to come up with some content of you learning something, right? Or you transitioning something in your life and you sharing this. So we call it that proof of regeneration, right? But folks over Utopia made some interesting points. Not everyone is really stimulated for that. So as everyone is very stimulated to consume, right? Consume content. The starting point would be the consumption of this content, right? Where you can actually earn some little amounts of Oz, right? But the juicy part is related to the learning tracks that you view but in this version now, this beta test version, Lauren, you only view the learning tracks, some learning tracks that are already made, right? Some content that are already existing. So you're only going to view it, and you're going to receive some Oz for it. So that's the first experience is that. The second experience that we're going to have in the V2, the second version, is that you're going to see them, and you're going to have to make a quiz. And you making a quiz, we can see if you really understand what you just saw, or if you really did make something, that content or that proposal, that experience relevant for your life, right? So you answer a quiz. This is the V2 version. In the V3 version, you'll be able to make your own learning track. You will make your own learning track. That can be actually happen because you learn something, right? You just learn something that is very, let's say, you learn something that is very fresh for you, and the best way that you better understand what you just learned is you go into the teaching mode. You think it as well, I learned this, but I'm doing this way, you see? So you come up with your own learning track, right? And that's the beauty of it, because you see how many folks are all over the planet that knows how to, let's say, build a solar panel to generate its own energy. Not so much, right? And how many ways you can do this? A lot of ways. So it's going to be interesting if you have only one type of learning, with one type of subjective learning, you have various perspectives of how you can learn it, right? And you can add your own perspective by yourself doing your own learning track about that subject, about that content, that knowledge that you don't have, right? So this is when we will be loading in the V3 version doing this, Oz will already be in the blockchain. It will already be a crypto. We're going to have liquidity pools. We're going to have, so it's going to become a most robust currency, and with real value, not only for the ethical marketplace of Utopia, but with other currencies too. So other cryptos and currencies too. So this is a very organic, very interactive, very peer-to-peer way to generate culture around generating wealth with this empathic drive, but step by step, right? Step by step, with a lots of learning curves for us and for everyone, so we can make this very feasible, touchable, tangible for a lot of people. So that's it. I don't know if I answered you, but that's it.
I just sent you a link by Bodo Honen, and this dude's a genius in terms of innovation and education. And he presented at Kiko Lab. I wrapped it up into I cut it into like a 5-minute video where he kind of explains his thoughts, and you might just want to follow him because he is clear and he absolutely knows the future of education. To like idea basically is like you let decide what they want to do. Like here are roles in a regenerative future. Here's the future of work. Here are some roles that we see as future of work, and this list of those will get you into this role. So you can be prepared for this future that is coming. And you can start like really easily, but what he presented there, I think would be relevant to what you're doing, and would, even if you can't, get there right away, it'd provide a framework for how the learning fits into kind of something else.
Yeah.
So his idea is to use AI to basically plan out these tracks for what you want to do, and how to get you there, learning your customized learning program in order to get you there. So it's very custom in terms of like what you want to do, and you set it. It's like an educational track where you are specifically like, want to do this one thing in the world, and then it teaches you what you need to learn about in order to do that. And having something like that, I think, is tremendous, because then it's like more focused and intentional on what you want to do.
Yeah. What I really like about you, Lauren, is that you're always aggregating substance for the type of substance that we're trying to co-create right here as a culture, right? As a culture, as a new type of wealth economics, and wow, I'll definitely take a look at it. And the thing is that you see, what we're doing here is not only let's say highlighting our projects in a very, let's say, in a very container mode, right? Oh, this is Utopia's project, this is Utopia's app, right? So this is Kiko Labs project, this is Kiko Labs features, or let's say principal findings, let's say. This is Alexar projects, and no. we're trying to really make our boundaries very organic, very permeable, very accessible. So what me and Atos just share here as the first moment of Utopia's app is yours too, Louding, is yours too, Alexer. Is for everyone to co-create, because we don't have that IP thing, right? Intellectual property thing. Doesn't happen to Utopia. So there's no intellectual property, there's no IP, there's no boundaries, no. See, everybody is really invited to be part of it, to co-create it, and for us to generate this blueprint, right? This footprint, this blueprint of how can we can make our societies really more inclusive, really more human or life-driven, right? Really more life-driven, and really generating the type of wealth that we as a species and all the species of this planet needs at the moment, not the exploratory one. So I'm saying this because we have somebody that is with here now. This is Tim. Tim, be very welcome, man.
Hey, Tim.
Hey everybody, nice to see you.
Yay!
Thanks. I was just typing out hi.
Are you Tim from Sensorica
Yeah,
or someone else?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Tim.
Hey, I pinged.
You know, one day I would actually like you, because I have no face associated with your name.
I'll set about making that possible in the next month. Okay. So yeah, wait for that. But I just following along from the sidelines, kind of catching what media that spawned of the conversations that I could, but I'm sure I'm not up to speed, really, you know. So I just thought drop in and learn and listen. So thanks.
Yeah, Tim, be very welcome.
And I'll get there.
Yeah, be very welcome, man. We're really in a tipping point here. All sorts of tipping points, right? So, first of all, as you know, as a Sensorican, I understand that you are a Sensorican, right? You know that Sensorica now is co-creating a new type of OVN, right? Open Value Network, that's going to be run, let's say, probably in the holochain environment, right? So this is one thing that is happening in Sensorica that is very, very thrilling. And another thing is that I feel that folks all over Sensorica, and I'm feeling you now, of course, but we've been talking with you and I here, right? You and I from Smart, NEI. We've been talking, of course, with Chibi, and with Anthony, right? Anthony has been here in these touchdowns too. So it's called Reimagining Wealth Initiative, right? So what we're doing here is to, how can we work as a superorganism, right? You see, when we make this question, what comes to our minds? Well, if we look to our societies as they were today, we are already a superorganism, right? We are already a decentralized superorganism, but we're this superorganism that is very exploration related, is very scarcity related, right? Is very accumulation related, and it's driven by our ego individualities, right? It's driven by our own, let's say, wishes of each one, right? Where we rarely can touch and understand and see and see what is the commons, right? The commons as a whole. So, we're talking about Anthony. Anthony's coming. Okay. The commons as a whole. So, and we're not talking about that type of commons activism, you see, Tim, that we have all over the peer-to-peer spaces, right? We're not talking about left and right and things like that. We're not talking in binary terms here. We're talking about understanding that we can have we can make the natural commons of this planet our main focus, right? The natural commons of this planet, a main focus, in a way that we can relate to it not explore it. We can really relate to it. We can create and driven value with it, not exploring it. So the type of movement that we're doing here is the movement to create this blueprint and this footprint, right? A type of superorganism that is very organic, very interactive, is already decentralized because we are decentralized societies, and but with this very regenerative movement. So we're exploring the boundaries of being very organic, not so organizational, right? And I know that this is a very hot topic for Sensorica, right? So because we have been making a lot of conversations about this. So hey Anthony, be very welcome, my friends, as usual, as always. Hey Anthony.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Hey, everybody.
yeah, nice to have you here, man, as always. So that's it, Tim. I just put it in a nutshell. We can talk a lot. We're talking about interoperability, right, between these organisms, right? And this is a challenge too. So, oh, Sam is coming too. Sam is one from Sensorica too. So that's it. I just tried to put it in a nutshell. The thinking behind, the action of the thinking behind this Reimagining Wealth initiative here. So be very welcome, Tim. And Sam, what a joy, man, to have you here.
Thank you so much. How's it going, everybody? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, yeah.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah. So
Nice to see you.
nice to see you, man. We felt your non-presence here on the last touchdowns because you always add critical points. You know that. You always add critical points. It's not so sharp as Anthony's critical points, but it's because Anthony goes direct. He cuts direct to the point, right, Anthony? But you see, bah!
Well, I have a reputation now, do I? I didn't.
Yeah. But it's very welcome, Anthony. You
Oh,
see,
I think Sam has laid it down though. He
yeah.
has laid it down. I've been through the recordings and he has some critical points.
All right, Sam, we need to talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good job.
You know, I'm getting some ideas on after that presentation on what I was talking about before with these wedding tables. So we just saw Athos just presented this kind of like scrolling where you're earning points listening to learnings, and then you can give those points away to projects that you like. So, and I have, be presented this kind of like my idea of a network configuration where everyone's at these little round tables. So say, for example, here's a round table on bullshit detection. What we could do is have people give their, or let's see, what's a better one? How about this? Lessons learned. So these tables are all different topics, and these could become roles in a network, like storytelling or decision or whatever. So my idea is, what if you could have people, say for example, they could you can present, or you can make up your own learning modules, almost like Instagramming or just Instagramming. But what would be super helpful in a network, in this peer-to-peer regenerative network, is that you can have people give like lessons learned along the way, and then have other people in credit and recognition for viewing a bunch of lessons learned videos. And these people who can earn credit for watching a lot of these lesson learned videos, then they would be more qualified. If someone had an idea, a project that they wanted to launch, it could be routed through people who've watched these lesson learned videos. They watched like 300 lesson learned videos and they would like mentally go through their lesson video and almost like the patent center, you know, in like Einstein Patent Center, you have to look in the database to see if a patent has already been done. So then like this project can then pass an inspection from these like lesson learned people that they're definitely like starting an initiative that has not, like, we will learn a new lesson by what they're doing, and they're not just doing something that's been done before disastrously. If you can have like also like you can start these decentralized network, you can also like the bullshit detection of a bunch, they can watch like a bunch of scams or what people have done to with artificial information and stuff like that, and get a much better sense of what has passed, and that the people in those roles get like some kind of credibility or reputation for being able to spot possible scams or misinformation or stuff like that. So that way you can start having like a decentralized network that can provide real wealth and value. If you have, if say your idea passes money, it's already passed through these people who can be like, oh no, I know, like I've had credit for watching 200 scam videos and I have passed, this doesn't seem like one of the ones that I've seen. So you can have like a verified net, that's really easy to explain that value. It's not like the empathy thing is just very hard to explain, but that's something real and tangible that, like, you know, in this network, if it passed through Sam and Anthony, that it has passed on like kind of like critical threshold that like it's a good idea if it goes through these people, or it has not been done, attempted, or like whatever. That, I think it could be pretty amazing. You could build up we could kind of these ideas. You could have another section of people who are up to on all the innovations, and they could then, you note to them, you could route people who have problems and see if there are other people in the network who already solve these with the innovations they've created. So that way you can start have like a routing system that diffuses the information, and then you could measure that by what TB and I were about yesterday with the innovation diffusion rate, and show that what you're doing, you can show mathematically that it is increasing the innovation diffusion rate, and that the network is actually getting smarter.
Wow, I think that's great. Very great. I was thinking we already planned to have some badges, to reputation, something like you said. And we also thinking about merging, making this badge be an NFT. Instead of being just a simple badge, we put NFT of this. And maybe this NFT could mean something. As you said, just reviewers, you know, maybe someone who already saw many learning tracks is able to verify some things. And he earns some NFT as a badge. This NFT would be a key for verifying, you know. I think that's a great idea. Great idea, Lauren. I mean, wow, it's all resonant.
I would share a couple of thoughts. So one is, it sounds like lots of different contexts and lots of different like problem areas baked into this. And I think it's hard to grasp without looking at each of those specific problems. So as an example, the one around spam detection makes sense to me. The context of like detecting bullshit or detecting spam, we tend to think about filters where we're trying to like block stuff out. So that's like a standard part of the process that we, where whether it's algorithms or modeling teams, whatever, like there's an input and there's a filter. If it passes the filter, it gets shown. So that's kind of part of the process. And I suppose it makes sense that watching a lot of spam video could be a good way to train like your moderators or train that filtration. I'm not really totally seeing the purpose of filtration and the filtration process in concept, like people advancing an idea through an ecosystem. I'm just not convinced relevant in the same way to that kind of use case, that process, where it might sort of like an idea getting passed through different stages of filters mechanistically, it might be less more kind of emergent, where somebody shares something, you know, somebody else is working on that over there already, like go check it out, it's related. That might not be a formal process of watching a bunch of videos. It's just kind of like a community report. But the nutshell of that would, I think that if you look at the specific, like across the different contexts, if you look at a specific context, whether that's advancing an idea or an innovation through an system, or that's detecting spam or bullshit, and bring the processes for each of those contexts, and then see what's actually needed, what could support them, and where it over. And because just in a nutshell, like I think that it could be more useful for them and less useful for others.
At any rate, I think it might be really helpful to, for each piece of content that goes up there, to have a routing system, figure out what this idea needs or who it needs to be shown to or something like that.
At the moment, we have, I heard you say something about filtering. At the moment, we have the tag filtering, the tag system. So we tag this subject about this post, and people can filter by tagging. And also it could use by this system of reputation, concluded learners, you know, a verified member, a member who saw a lot of learning tracks about this subject. So it's able to verify learning tracks or posts about this. I think that makes sense, but I about I it's really good to see a lot of scam to be I verify a scam regulator, you know, scam.
I'm talking about me. I wasn't talking about like watching scam video. About like watching things like say for example like in designs that are pyramid schemes. That's what I'm talking about with scams, so that you can like verify it in the network, that you can actually verify. And it's like, oh, this is my regenerative company that's doing good and it's using the blockchain. All of this stuff, to me, it's like it can just make piles of massive bullshit, and you need like some kind of mechanism to make sure that these are high quality things, because you know, with everything, with like Marcelo's thing, is, you know, what is he doing? Is that legit? Like, you know, because people can just make up this stuff like, oh, I'm combining meditation and blockchain. I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly. That's why.
That's what I'm saying. You need in these networks, in these like do-good networks, like you really kind of critical thought, and there's no mechanism to provide thought or to someone who understands meditation in the blockchain, who's qualified to even speak on that, you know, and being able to verify else, like with people who know what they're talking about, that idea of, you know, using meditation and the blockchain and combining that as somehow not bullshit, that's very, very valuable, I think.
Yeah, you know, think with me. If we have a lot of learning tracks on blockchain, then people see all of this content will be able to verify. So we could pass function to people were interested to do it, you know, and with knowledge to do it, and the way they know this content when they had this learning tracks completed and this answer, because after the track they have a quiz to answer, and that's it. It's like a test. So we could do a badge or NFT to recognize these learners as verifiers for this specific. I think so. Work.
You know, like developers, they get a reputation on Stack Overflow, and that is really important for you know, like employment and stuff, that you have these bad basically that you are not a person, you answer questions well and stuff like that, and that could really is kind of a wealth that is like the verified knowledge, and that these skills are validated, and you can do that through an awareness of these new businesses or whatever. That is very, very valuable. Like someone who is in the blockchain space being trained on good business models using the ability to show that they know bullshit from really practices, that is a great verified skill to have.
So a couple of quick thoughts. One thing about Stack Overflow, maybe some other people on the call could say more than me, how much Stack Overflow is actually important to kind of career. From what I've read, you know, from the creator of Stack Overflow, and they talk about a lot of those metrics, it's actually just about displaying how helpful you've been to other people. And according to the founder, it seemed like he kind of talked less about like extrinsic motivations, maybe more like the GitHub way, where you want to like employer you have on GitHub, and more just showing people like you asked a really valuable question, or you gave a really valuable question, or you gave a really valuable answer. Here's like however many thousands of people benefited from seeing that. So just once there, I suppose I could stop. I'm not. So another concern that comes to mind is the idea about like who as what as being proper training or proper education, because there's a lot of cases where we're seeing that even at academic university levels, a lot of the education, particularly around economics, is really flawed. Like you can look at Talib's work for that. In blockchain, I mean, I think, you know, you could get a really good sense of blockchain principles and design by just going through one of those websites that shows in 5 minutes. Is it a trust problem? Like, is it a truly trustless environment? Blockchain is a solution for it. If not, blockchain does not matter at all. It's irrelevant. It's just marketing. So that's another thought, is I'm not seeing the connection between the amount of content watched and how prepared somebody is to do the work, as well as who decides what is the proper education content. And just think the big thing for this, I do think it's useful, and you see, we see analogs to what you're talking about, Lauren, of Reddit, for example, and people trying to figure out if a new blockchain or crypto is bullshit or not. There are ways that people do. So people will go through the website, people will see how long it's been around, people will look into the white paper, you'll see the opinions. My point is that people have a way of this today. Not to say that's the best way. It could be useful to look at the processes that communities use today to figure this stuff out, and just see kind of the jobs to be done perspective is, instead of starting with some kind of where the innovation comes is from looking at the process, looking at the job that people are trying to do, and then finding a way to kind of improve on that process, make it easier in some way. So I'm not seeing how this maps to kind of the existing processes or the existing kind of, you know, what's familiar in terms of the way that people already do this kind of thing in current communities.
Sounds like example of a great idea, but it's already happening to some degree. It's just not happening as well as it could be. What is more of this, the good stuff. We want more experts and know more stuff. We want better education so that more people can access. With the wedding tables, did I miss something with the wedding? I think I might have missed something. Did you guys talk about it last time?
Presented maybe a couple weeks ago. So
Okay.
it was so what it was so my kind of life work is on a rapid network. So what I'm always
Okay.
trying to think is how can we start like the most minimal instance of a network that could eventually gain exponential intelligence,
Okay.
where it's like it grows smarter over time, because a lot of networks, they might out pretty smart, especially if you do like regular business practices. It starts out smart. This would start out dumber, but have a more exponential curve. Figure out what are the minimal elements that you have to have a rapid learning network, where it's like a feedback loop, so it gets much smarter over time. But it might just start out really rudimentary by having some of all of these things I've identified, but then quickly it starts to, through these rapid feedback loops and learning, that it can do what existing mechanisms can't do. So it wouldn't start out like amazing or anything. It could quickly grow to be pretty cool after
Yeah,
a while.
that sounds super interesting. It's right in line with the whole decentralization thing, because this method of running our little networks and making them more effective, smarter, I guess, is the same thing, or very closely related. But what is
Yeah,
the
so
wedding?
there's like no mechanism. If one group makes an innovation,
Okay.
it's really hard, because we're not, first of all, we're not a formal network, where their
What do you mean by
boundaries
we?
are they're just
You mean like the community
like
of
we. Exactly.
basically
Who
everybody
is
on the whole
we?
planet? Who's the whole planet,
Exactly.
basically?
We don't
Everybody.
know.
Okay.
We don't know. We don't
But
know. That's the
approximately,
thing.
like,
We just,
who are you
and
talking?
that's what we're trying to do. Even in the Gitcoin thing, that's what we do. We're trying to formalize the boundaries of a network, so we even know we.
Okay.
We
Before
don't
When
they
even
you're
know
talking
who
about
he
the wedding
is.
tables, like who are you generally thinking about when you're the wedding tables? Like, what's an example? What's a good example?
It's
Like, is it the,
my imaginary network where
Okay.
things are amazing. It's just my imaginary. But we are trying to week after week get a sample where we can start like Attila that shares something, can kind of start this. So that's why I'm in this conversation here.
okay? So you want to
That's why
like
I show up.
do an experiment, like sort of make the system go, like have a nice group of people that can experiment, implement your proposed approaches.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so you have a project for what they can undertake, like what are they going or trying to do, or is that suppose you have 100 people, you want to try out your system, how do you, what ball rolling, do you have a pilot project for them to try to accomplish something like
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote a dollars.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think that's just not scoped enough. There's no way. Needs more than like so something that's been really empowering for me in that sense, it's a book from the Basecamp group called Shape Up. I would highly recommend it to anybody. I'll pull it up. Well, actually, I'll stop talking in a second. But the point is just like, I have no idea what would cost $50,000 to do this type of thing. If we're talking about like pieces of content, and then like we're checking in to see that people like observe pieces of content, and there's other pieces of content going through a system that has different metadata attached to it, like the stage it's at in a system, whatever. It's there's no barriers to doing this. It's just if you scope it as really complex, then it seems really expensive. If you find like the core of it, then I think it becomes much more actionable and unlocked, and no need to write grant applications. You can just go ahead with it.
Sounds like it'd be nice to find the core. What was $50,000 for, Larry? It takes money.
It was for my salary.
Okay.
Because
work for a
I
year or
find it,
something,
yeah,
right?
I find it very hard to do this because I've been doing this for free for a long time, and I don't find like a lot of rewards, and
Yeah.
there's like a lot of maintenance to do that to actually get it up and running so that it be that can start and have the eventually it could have kind of wings to do all by itself, but there's always in every group there's some kind of maintenance that needs to be done. That's really hard to get something going without someone actually doing like hard work.
Yeah, you need some bottom liners. Or something.
That's my experience. It's really, really hard to have anything go without anyone being a steward that puts quality into
At least to get it started, right? I mean, that's a decentralization problem. Degree, but to get it started is very difficult.
Really, like after a while, it's supposed to just fly on, and each of the parts would balance each other to do it. But to actually get it off, it's very difficult. I don't have
seed,
the
right?
ability to.
Yeah.
Nothing can grow without a seed. It has to be seed or initial organism of some.
Wait. I want to share one different perspective here. Because I'm a person. I think a lot of us are coming from the same perspective, where we're in calls like this. We're working on stuff like this. We're not getting paid for it, right? It's hard. I personally done many grant applications for the perspective that I eventually got to is that I can either spend my time doing grant applications or thinking about how to get funded for this thing, or I can actually do the thing. And I'd rather spend time doing the thing. I'm not getting paid either way.
So like a super
and I
mini,
think that
like a tiny little shrunken down one, because you can't do the whole thing, but you could do a little tiny shrunken down version or something.
Well, and probably the way to start anyway, whether you have funding or not, is to start with like a shrunken down and you can learn from it. So what I say to anybody, and I tell this to myself all the time, is that we can make progress if we just do the thing instead of looking for some funding, some whatever. If we have the time to write the grant applications, then we have the time to do the thing.
Well, that's what I did, and I suffered from burnout. I think that's not the greatest advice either. So in experience, I wasn't like amazing either to actually do it, because it takes a long time to figure out even what to do.
So the other thing that comes to mind is if this is something that people would value, then, and you're proposing something to people even before it gets built, what you can say is, listen, this is something I want to do. If this is you want to join, help pay in to kind of make it happen. I don't know, pay like a $5 per month subscription. These are the benefits you're going to get out of it. That can even go something like a co-op. So then you get like validation also. And the point is, you just go directly to the people. And if it's valuable to them, then again, you have that could alleviate burnout. So you have the resources to keep going from there.
It's another idea, I guess. It's just one thing to try, I suppose. But yeah.
Yeah. You see, guys, in my experience, I've been doing this for 25 years, right? So I've done it in a lot of ways. I think I must have done it all the ways that you were talking here. But ultimately, in the last 10 to 15 years, I've been doing in a very different manner. First of all, I'm only going to share with my only experience, okay? This is, of course, you can be related with it, but it's my experience, right? I became, in this 25 years, a minimalist. So I'm not attached to material goods. And so I'm really soft and light and mobile, and I can be any time and anywhere in a moment's notice. So this is the first thing. it was a learning curve. Okay, the second thing is that I really stopped trying to theorize, make theories about what is interdependence, what is living in a very free flow way, and I make my life a free flow way. So, in that sense, so in such a way that I'm not dependent of fiat money. I'm really, really, really little dependent of fiat money in the sense that I don't depend to have a paycheck to pay my bills monthly, like most of the human beings on this planet has to have. So in this sense, I'm always accessing all sorts of experiences, products, services, because I dedicate myself to the commons as the most radical, natural way that you can imagine. So my life is really, really deepened in the commons as a whole. So in this sense, folks that are around me, I don't know how much there are, but I know there's a lot of them, not only here in Brazil, but out of Brazil too. They always give me access, and I give them access to all sorts of things. So I'm always giving access and receiving access for any type of things that you can imagine. But you see, I'm not here to talk about my life, right? So in the last 10 years, 15 years, I've been trying to, let's say, make this happen, co-create frameworks that it's possible for anyone in the planet to adhere to these frameworks and make its own transition, right? In your own pace, without pre-designing it, without establishing any type of bias, preconceiving it, just making in a very interactive and organic flow, right? So in this sense, in the past, let's say 7 years, I've been co-creating frameworks for people to transition for a very scarcity-driven life, for a very abundance life, without any type of, let's say, any type of shit, right? In a very down-to-earth way. So that people really make this movement for their lives. So that's the thing that I'm involved, right? And I started wondering about 2 or 3 years ago if this movement was able to be made within organizations that call themselves DAOs or call themselves decentralized. Would these organizations really be decentralized? Would this organization be really organic and interactive? Are they really doing something that is meaningful for them and for everybody, everyone? That was the question that I was making, right? And I started co-creating with folks that were open to co-create something very meaningful for their lives and very meaningful for everyone to transition to a more regenerative footprint and imprint in your life. So that's the thing that I have been doing, right? And about being paid, I don't make this question for me so much time that I even don't have the notion of what is being paid, right? So the thing is that when you really transition from the way that we still live nowadays in most of societies throughout the planet for a life that is more organic, more interactive, more meaningful in a very regenerative manner for you and everyone, you re-signify, you reframe what is wealth, what is health, what is even what we can call money, right? And that's why I'm here. So I'm here because I think that each one of you vibrates in this frequency with a very different perspective, coming from a different point of view and life experience. And that for me is the richness that we need to do what we're doing, right? So for me, that is it. So I'm thrilled because we're not only talking about it, right? We're walking and doing things together, right? We're going to do something in Gitcoin space now. We're going to do something between our dynamics, our organizations, right? So it's not something theoretical. It's not something only we're talking about. We're doing something really. So for me, that was what is happening. Actually now, for instance, Anthony is very involved with the Greens for Good, with TB, and I'm looking at the documents. I'm looking at all the things how Sensorica does this open source project, and I'm already having insights how to make this even more open source, even more appropriable for more people here in Brazil and out of Brazil, things, all the networks that I'm involved in, all the frameworks, and I see a lot of potential. And we're just starting to do this. We're just starting to do this. This is only in the beginning. That's my take. Okay, my empathic take for it.
It got a little bit complicated, but okay.
Hey, Vinicius, that's beautiful. I also want to apologize to the group and also to Lauren. I think my energy before is not quite like the energy that I want to bring into the world. And I actually think that Anthony had the appropriate line of inquiry. And Lauren, I actually think that—
No, but I think we have something, we have similarity here, Sam. You have, you're saying kind of negative things sometimes, and I don't do that, so just know that you're not the only one.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is I got caught talking on a couple things. Lauren, I actually think what you're doing and sharing it in a call like this and sharing this with the group is exactly— so what I would say for a person coming with a new that's like looking for a way to do something, what I'd recommend is find a way to communicate it, share it like with groups of people, see like who it resonates with, and see if you can kind of get anybody like come on board the adventure with you, not as like a co-founder, but just come along for steps, and then kind of figure out, you know, what you need to do next together. So it is actionable in some ways. So I think what was great about Anthony's line of inquiry, and I think that's exactly right, is wondering like what is blocking you? What are the specific areas of support that you're looking for? If it's scoped to that point yet. I just kind of wanted to say that and revise my earlier comments, and yeah, feel free to respond.
Well, to be fair, I just want to say briefly, because I think Lauren might be about to say something, but for giving Lauren justice, it seems like she's been working on this question for a very long time and has developed her ideas quite extensively. And it's not easy to show people that in the conversation. Sometimes it just doesn't come across very well, you know. I think maybe not coming across to us.
But I also think that that's part of like, I think that's part of the I think that's part of the job to be done, is to just find a way to, so depending on the audience, right? Like if the end goal is for an idea in here to be in your head, Anthony, then I need to have some like empathy for who you are, like what you can make sense of what your perspective is, and then find like the words or the language that gets into other fun conversations, Lauren, where it will make sense to you. Anyway,
that's fair enough. Yeah.
Hey, also, I just want to, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the camera, but I understand people like to do that. I was just going to say, just context-wise, so I threw a quote in there as you're talking about, you know, big changes and stuff, right? So there's a good, that's a go-to reference on that kind of thing from Machiavelli about how basically you've got enemies among everyone who has invested in the current way things are, which, given what you're talking about, isn't just a system, all the systems all woven together, right? It's a much, much deeper thing with what you're talking about than what he was probably talking about. So you've only got, you've got kind of people who are going to fight you because they're invested in the current system. And then the people who do understand what you're talking about and are thinking, yeah, that's a good idea. They don't really have your back, because, you know, that new system is so uncertain and really, and even though they see the light in your eyes and they see the ideas and some of the concepts you're talking about, they really resonate, set off some sparks in their mind. You know, they're for you, but they're not with you. And so when it hits the fan, don't look to them to back up. So that's what Machiavelli is trying to say there. So I just throw that in there because we're getting into that kind of a bit. But the other thing I just want to point out, just listening, is, you know, given how big it is, and I mean, it's hard to even get your head around how big what we're talking about is. It's really difficult to navigate this conversation to jump into details and then in and out of the high level, but you want to get something done. You want to do something. You want to get your hands, roll up the sleeves. That's clear, and that's unique and good. And I personally think right, refreshing, productive, the word go, because it undermines the delusion, the self-delusion of, or the getting too far ahead of yourself, where the canvas on which you're busily painting your picture in a way is about to disappear because the world is changing at your feet, right? Like things are moving. It's like the redesigning the plane while it's flight metaphor, right? The plane is in flight and you are trying to redesign your plane and not lose passengers. So all these metaphors, right, I think kind of capture the situation. Now with the idea that Lauren threw out, you know, that's a bit of a struggle where people went into some details now, right? Real detail on an implementation with a drawing, with tables on it, with a process, with grants and funding and getting money to do a thing, to test an experiment, to try something to move this needle forward, right? So that's good and that's hands-on stuff. But we kind of seem to approach Lauren as though it was vying for singular attention or the singular act, whereas I think there's a multitude of directions and vectors and acts, and everyone's, earlier in the conversation, people said, well, in my world, I'm working on this, in my world, I'm working on that. So clearly, and we all know that everyone's kind of somewhere else doing slightly different things, but that there is a common thread and a view that seems to unite some ideas and animate a desire to collaborate. But nevertheless, it's a multitude, so to speak. So just to temper that maybe a little bit, it comes to mind that what Lauren was doing in terms of putting that forward and talking about it and engaging people in conversation about it, isn't that different from if Sam were to throw up an interactive development environment and explain how he likes to arrange his code coloring for Java or something. I mean, like, it was in the craft of what Lauren does, which is rapid sense making and learning. And it sounded to me like she was coming up with a mechanism that she felt would be important to use the slang of the term to democratize, to broaden and share and disseminate deep appreciation and bullshit detection around this blockchain space, right? It sounded like that was the focus of it. I put a note in there because Tibby had put up a video to have critical comments on, and I watched it and I could see, oh, so kind of connecting those two dots. So I don't know if that's the context or why that came up, okay? But it's a really specific kind of intervention, seems to me, aimed at broadening understanding and deepening understanding and critical kind of self-protection around a frenetic world of some scams and just general confusion and misguided adventures around blockchain, right? So I think that's a valuable thing. And the fact that you weren't designing a course that would be necessarily sort of like a $10,000 a day chief executive how to win in blockchain, that's the distinguished difference, right? That you specifically seem to me to be trying to onboard people intelligently in an informed way into a confusing space, but a space which you see, and the nature of the name of this group, that you see as a vector towards, again, you know, well, okay, I don't want to, vector towards enfranchisement and economic participation and growth in the future, as in terms of when blockchain and massive web scale coordination systems.
Pretty sure blockchain was just an example, like the stuff about starting bullshit from blockchain, just an example of what the network might do.
Okay.
There's a lot of other things too, though.
Yeah, I guess I'm tying it in with the wealth thing, and also just the fact that there seems to be the idea of blockchain and cryptocurrencies involved in this conversation among this group. So that was, I'm keying off that too. And I don't know the background or the context or the focus or scope of what Lauren's thing was doing, but I think it seemed like it was in some kind of a direction that was productive in that way. But the treatment, sort of in terms of how it was interpreted and how we're evaluating it is as though we are voting on whether we will all do that. Is that what we're doing? Or
We seem to do that by default when you have like a group full of people talking about interesting ideas. So like, okay, which one's the best one?
Yeah, it feels that way, and that's exactly, Anthony. There's a natural, we fall into that where and then we say things like, well, that's a good point. What are we all about the points? You know what I mean? Like, and and oh, but my idea is, do you know what I mean? So yeah, so and I'm dropping in, and like I said, just to understand and catch up. So so I'm just bouncing that back for like a reflection or whatever, to, and also to, as a signal for my own confusion, to try to make sense of where are we, what are we doing, what's going on, and that's not an easy question to answer or anything, or clear to anyone or everyone at any given time. So, but that is a bundle of my present confusion for you too.
On that note, I think we can end.
Lorraine,
just kidding, just kidding.
but Lorraine has to have a finishing
That was
statement.
great, Tim. That was great, Tim.
Lorraine have a finishing statement or something, right? I mean, we've all been talking about her idea, but what you got to say about this?
Well,
I-
it's really we're actually, like, I just bounced off of Athos's seeing what, you know, he and Vinicius has been working on. They presented that before you all came, so it's been kind of a disjointed conversation, people jumping in later after Athos presenting, so I was giving my take on what he was doing. So maybe I'll like give the ball back to Athos and see what he's thinking. And thank you, Sam, for what you said. I will read that book.
It's short and super impactful. Like it really changed my life. I've spent so much less time. It's what they say. I couldn't find better words. Like I think it starts with spend less time running in circles and more time kind of making progress. And the core idea is about like getting really scoping specifically down. Like you might have something really big. It could be as complex as a car engine, like an internal combustion engine. That engine starts somewhere. You don't start by like, you know, putting every single piece in place when you're trying to figure out how to build it. You probably figure out like, okay, how can I build the single most important thing first, which then can allow like me to make steps from there and add to it. So, but yeah, great book, Shape Up.
Sure.
But there's like a certain thing where there might be like in some kind of like fractal design to be able to reach, there's like the smallest possible instance of what you're trying to do, and if it gets smaller than that, it degrades into kind of nothings that doesn't have a lot of meaning and that doesn't capture the essence of what you're doing. So it could be that something with help from maybe other people could they could help you get to a place where it's smaller than what you envision, but sometimes it's really hard. I don't know if anyone understands what I'm wondering, maybe you at this, but
Yes, this is a concept it's closely related to the minimum viable product in what's the agile software methodology. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar with it. Sorry, go ahead, Lorraine. I don't want to cut you off.
no, that's all I have to say. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Minimum viable product. How do you imagine? You know, some people need help to get to the smallest understandable minimal viable product, and that's, you know, what I need help with.
Yeah, the minimum viable product
that
can
I
only be
don't
so
have.
small, right? I mean, sometimes it's not that small.
Yeah, I think
And that's where I would agree with you, Lauren. Like, you know, you can identify what are the critical components. You know, like I agree, like below a certain level of definition, maybe it's meaningless and it doesn't do anything and it doesn't help us get anywhere, you know. Yeah, so I completely agree with you there. And I resonate, all of this resonates. It's hard shit to figure out. It's like, and the point is with that book, it gives some really useful practices, at least in my work, for in particular figuring out the key affordances. So affordances being like capabilities, but like the key affordances that a given piece of technology should have, or given parts of a technology, and then kind of the sequences between those affordances. And then instead of it being this big thing in your head, you can start looking at it almost like circuits. And it's like, okay, well, like that can go there, that can go there. This is how they can connect. This is like the page sequence. So I've been talking a lot, but I think
Sounds good.
Yeah, you see, one of the things that is beautiful in this touchdowns here, Tim, is that is totally unstructured, right? We don't have an agenda. We just put in the horizon our intentions of what we want to talk, and whoever drops in, like you dropped, may change the course of the conversations, may add layers that wasn't added before, right? So hadn't existed before. And it was interesting that Lauren was making a commentary about what me and Atos was sharing related to Utopia, and the outtakes and intakes that everyone here has around it. It was very interesting to see that happen. So, and for me, this unstructured, non-agenda way to interact, to really make a dialogos, is something very fresh. It's fresh as the morning sunlight, right? So it's very fresh because you feel that you're on something. You feel that you're being pulled for something that is not familiar for you. And this is interesting because also the type of conversations that we almost have in organizational spaces, institutionalized spaces, are not conversations. They are broadcasting. They are broadcasting monologues. They are very captured, institutionalized monologues, because people are not really interacting, right? They are because they're captured by the pre-design that exists in these spaces. So these touchdowns here, they try to be very fluidic, they try to be very unstructured, and they try to come up, they try to like say, capture the type of movement that nature does, right? That is very unpredictable, is very imperceptible. You don't predict it. It just emerges, right? So this is a type of flow that we're trying to, let's say, prototype. This is not a good word for it because it's a very organizational word. It's a very structural word. We're trying to blueprint. I don't know. We're trying to blueprint a way that we can endeavor together in a very organically, and using some frameworks, different type of frameworks, to see if the signaling is sufficient to be understood by anyone at any time, right? And not needing all this boiled down contextual conversation that we're having here for you to understand the minimal valuable product of it, let's say, the MVP of it. So it's very, yes, it's very challenging, and that's why we're very excited to do it, right? And as I said, we're not only talking, we're doing. So feel invited, Tim, to come along, and it'd be nice, man, to have your 360 perspective around around what we're doing here.
Thanks. That helps and makes me feel better about the comments I sort of interjected before, and helps me appreciate how, you know, in the comments and the motivation of the comments was the preconceived structures and notions that you're just referring to, right? Like I had the categories that organized my intervention to understand or to back. It was full of the things you just mentioned. You're trying to cast off a little bit in these conversations, right? So like the idea of a product and of, oh, I guess we all have to decide on one thing to do together. Is that what we're doing here? And Anthony's comment, you know, like that's exactly the sort of you know, the frame that you're trying to cast off a little bit in this conversation. Thanks, that helps a lot. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, really kind of yeah, I don't know what in have you come up with like any strategies or ideas to help me connect with how that might go in terms of the acting and the doing? Because Lauren's point, in the acting and the doing, we are also all, and to your comments about how you've organized things with this, in the acting and the doing, we are also interested in the eating and the sleeping, right? So, you know, I mean,
Totally.
yeah, that kind of underpins.
So this is
So that kind of underpins, or that creates a motivation. That's the incentive that is built in to motivate us, of course, to reconstitute, recapitulate those categories, because those are the categories that have kept us in food and sleep to this point, right? And with shelter. So those categories were burnt in our grandparents and our parents and all the way back, right? I mean, it matters if you can eat or you can sleep. So Lauren has a good point about, grants can help with that too, but then like Sam said, just get busy and doing it, and having a positive outcome that contributes to the eating and the sleeping, and then just being judicious and prudent and wise about how you balance your eating and your sleeping and your doing. It's all good strategies, but again, like the plane is mid-flight, and the systems you're talking about changing are not just the wings and the propellers, but you're also talking about things that are almost into the air currents and aerodynamics. If you're talking about some fundamental environmental shifts, I'm reminded there's a book called One Dimensional Man, by I should know the name, famous guy. He's part of, I think, what they call critical theory guys or something, or anyway. But he ends the book. It's a really kind of tough, I found it tough to read, but at the very end of the book, he's basically, how he summed it up is that in terms of a commodified consumer sort of society, the people, you brought up in it, you learn it, you've been blinded by it. You cannot see what he's talking in terms of, in the language, I think, of his community emancipation, or sort of, non-alienation, and this sort of, of finding the kind of new ways that you speak to. His point is that someone who's brought up in a consumer commodified culture has been blinded and is no longer sensitized to the realities that they would need to see or to know what to do to change their situation. You folks clearly are not suffering that blindness, but it doesn't necessarily, once you see something, doesn't necessarily mean it's easy or you know what to do. So that's exciting confusion in this context.
Yeah, we don't have any certainties here. I think so. No certainties, sir, around here. Only uncertainties, and we're on this non-spatial territory to explore the uncertainties with the certainty that we don't know the outcome, right? We don't know the outcome, but we are learning with it. So that's the thing. I'm not sitting on my 25 years of exploring and doing things and saying, "Whoa, man, for me it's okay. That's it. I'm out of the game," right? No, I'm really thrilled. I really feel very, very thrilled to do what I'm actually doing with you folks and a lot of other people that aren't here. And that nurtures. I think that the word for me is nurturing, right? That nurtures what we're doing here. Nurtures me to have good sleep, good eating, and good stuff. And that's the thing. So for me, we're just a bunch of more developed bonobos, let's say. We're such a more developed bonobos. With less aggressive traits, but we're very dangerous in the mental space, right? Different from bonobos, we're a very threatening species in the mental space. So we become at least the most threatable species, the most prodigious species on the planet, because of our capability to imagine things and to deal with our very fragile condition, right? Very fragile condition in relation to the other species. So for me, that's it. It's there's nothing to add to it. Of course, we can philosophically add a lot of layers there, but for me, that's the essence of it. We're just living the thing, right? And for me, I cannot be here tomorrow, and that for me, that's okay. For me, living this now, you see, Tim, in the present moment, is everything, right? So I'm here in thought, in the present moment. I'm not putting all my wishes in the future. For me, what we're doing here now is really relevant. So I would be here. I would feel that that goes to my guts, right? It's very, 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 very essential. It goes to my roots. All the routine that propels me to do whatever I'm doing, right? So, and I feel that each one of you has the same predisposition, right? The same openness to do it. So that's why we're together, right? And for me, it's very interesting to see that we're not a consensual bunch, right? We're not trying to do something very consensual. We're in a very dissensual mode, right? We're trying to understand ourselves and do things with ourselves without any type of ideology behind it, without any type of doctrine behind it, without any type of to capture you to a certain trend, to a certain direction, right? To a certain way of thinking or way of living. No, it's all of way of thinking, way of living are very welcome. Even those that we think as treacherous for our own existence, because they're all, let's say, related to our species as a whole, right? So that's the thing for me, Tim. So once more, be very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here, co-creating with us. And man, let's go for it. That's that. Well, and just to finish, we're on the top of the hour. More of it. I think that we transpass it. So if you guys want, we can go wrap this touchdown out and see what we have in the horizon for the coming weeks, right? We have a lot of things, really meaningful things coming on, and we're co-creating it. So that's my 2 cents. Let's go.
Okay, so we're going. Bye, everyone. Or sorry.
Yeah. At this, can you stay a little bit so I can give you? I have something else to say to you.
Yeah.
Mr. Buster.
Okay, I'm going. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Anthony.
Goodbye.
Okay, Alexar. I think that Lauren with the yeah, you're host, Lauren. So that's okay. So
Okay,
guys,
I don't need Atus, I don't need alone time. I just have